And now I'll move to the board podium for our resolution today.
Thank you.
Resolution of the Board of Directors of the Lower Colorado River Authority honoring Marcus Ollington. Whereas Marcus Ollington retired from the Lower Colorado River Authority on June the 8th, 2024, as lead cartographer after more than 25 years of service to LCRA. Marcus recognized his affinity for cartography in second grade when he made a private treasure map and a pirate treasure map for his birthday party. He continued making maps and ultimately formalized his passion with a graduate degree from Southwest Texas State University. And whereas Marcus established himself as a source of cartographic excellence, thus elevating maps in his department. As word spread of his unique ability to turn complex information into clear and crisp works of art, demand for surveying and mapping products increased. Sometimes you're too good, right? Marcus made thousands of maps to serve the needs of LCRA, and the people used his creations. He excelled at providing outstanding customer service, even notifying his customers of vacation plans well in advance. Marcus took great pride in creating products to help others be successful and shine. Lago Vista City Council members proclaimed him Citizen of the Month for making their city street map. Some of his many LCRA career highlights include redesigning the service area map, creating a transmission line and substation system map, and being the translator of technical geographic information systems data to LCRA's communications department writers because he said he was fluent in both those languages. His linguistic prowess also contributed to LCRA's current mission statement, as he took the initiative to suggest language clearly highlighting LCRA's providing critical services that enhance the quality of life of the Texans we serve. And whereas Marcus was ahead of his time when the LCRA News magazine featured him on its cover in 2005, sporting an electric scooter he rode to work at the Dachau Service Center. Joe Beal, LCRA's general manager of that time, commended Marcus' effort with an engraved Environmental Excellence Award. Marcus put his heart into projects, and his long-standing partnership with LCRA Parks was dear to him, updating, improving, and standardizing park visitor maps. He also combined work with his love of music when he also oversaw a shuttle to transport LCRA's employees volunteering at the Austin City Lights Music Festival. Marcus has brought smiles and laughter to coworkers with his ability to apply songs to any situation, his sense of humor, and his good-spirited shenanigans, including creating amusing bulletin board posts about items he had for sale and a video showing his vast collection of LCRA clothing. If you haven't watched it, it's fabulous, so pick it on. He's got a big wardrobe, and he's got an old-school vest on right now today. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the LCRA Board of Directors and employees, with extra emphasis from service center employees and friends across the LCRA, express their appreciation to Marcus Ollington for his years of dedicated service, and they wish him well in his travels and all his future endeavors. Approved this 10th day of December, 2024.
Directors, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Move. You have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, clap.
Well, thanks for coming to my final retirement party. Almost feel like I should apologize for only working 25 years. Sherry Schneider in real estate just celebrated her 40th year of service, and I'm sure you've all heard of Alan Coonsey. He had 50 years of service. I thought about trying to do a Coonsey, but I'd have to work until I was 89. So I figured, okay, better move on. I have some folks to thank and some observation and memories I'd love to share with you. I will start with thanking the board. Thank you very much for the resolution. I really appreciate the unanimous vote just now. It meant a lot to me. Krista Umscheid is here somewhere hiding. Krista, thank you very much for your work on this resolution. Krista and I have been in cahoots for about 20 years. We had a fact-checking partnership for a long time, making sure that anything published within LCRA was correct. And she'd call me and I'd call her. Thank you very much for this. You left out one of my whereas statements. Krista was very kind and allowed me to suggest some content. And she left out my favorite whereas statement. Fortunately, I have it here and I'll read it to you now. Whereas in October 1998, Fred Crawford, manager of LCRA Surveying and Mapping, made the greatest decision of his career when he hired Marcus Ollington as a cartographer for the authority. Now, that's a factual statement. I don't know why it was removed. Fred actually hired me as a GIS analyst, and I think he's watching right now, streaming this in North Carolina. And I want to thank him because shortly after my arrival, he created the cartographer position for me, which was literally a dream come true. A few years later, he made the senior cartographer position so he could promote me and increase my compensation. I appreciated that. And while I'm thanking people for positions, Stuart Nelson approved the creation of my final title here, which was LCRA Cartography Lead. He did that for me because I asked if it would be possible to not supervise anybody anymore. Can I just come to work and make maps? And so he made that position for me. As to the content of this, yes, I have amassed a massive amount of shirts. My closet literally at one point had about this much space devoted to LCRA wear. Because of that, I mean, I'm talking, we got hats, jackets. I've even got an LCRA belt buckle at home, which, if you watch the video, the belt buckle has a pivotal role. Now, I wanted to show that video to you guys today, but apparently thou shalt not show videos to the board of directors. So I'll send Phil the YouTube link and he can forward it to you if you're interested. Speaking of shirts, it's a little bit of a story. We're going to go back here. My first encounter with LCRA took place in the summer of 1979, and I was literally shirtless. I was in town. I was 20 years old, in town with an old high school buddy, and we'd heard Austin was a fun place. And we were having a good time, and we had heard that there was a place you could go swimming without benefit of clothing. And we were trying to find this place. And we asked all kinds of people. And we're driving down Lake Austin Boulevard, and we come across the sign, it says River Authority. And I said, hey, pull over, River Authority. They got to know where this place is. So we parked and jumped out. We had on cutoff jeans and flip-flops, and we walked into the Miller building, which at the time had a public reception desk. And I'm sure they must have been taken aback by our appearance. But they were very kind. They let us in. They said, well, let's go back. We met a guy who had aerial photographs of Lake Travis. It dawned on me shortly into the meeting that they did not know where this place was either. So we never did find it. I know where it is now. It's Hippie Hollow, and I put it on mini maps because it's an LCRA property. Well, 19 years after that, Fred hired me, and thus began a partnership between what I found was an entity with a voracious appetite for maps, which matched my obsession with making them, and it was a lovely relationship. LCRA is such an interesting place to work. There's so many facets, so many things going on, and I ended up making all kinds of maps. My primary focus for much of my career was making board item agenda maps, and they were hot potatoes, man. They came in fast, and they had quick turnaround and minimal information sometimes, and incredible scrutiny from all levels of management. But I loved it. I think about 10 to 20% of my efforts were involved in making board maps. As the the resolution attests, I did have a long-standing partnership with LCRA Parks. I have mapped every park property. I have visited almost all the parks. And I mapped watersheds and floodplains and endangered species and solar radiation, our telecom system, our dams and facilities. And I mapped money. How much money are we putting in which county with our grants? One of the things I loved about my job is I never knew what I was going to do from day to day because the needs of the organization would change so rapidly. I had a wonderful experience riding a boat, a flat-bottom boat, from Longhorn Dam all the way down to the mouth of the Colorado and into the Gulf of Mexico. It was me and an LCRA ranger and one of the parks employees, Susie Baxter Harwell, and a GPS unit, and we were marking navigation points all the way down. It took us 4 days, and it was such an incredible experience. I found places I probably would have never discovered. Buffalo Wallow Rapids, for example. It's the only rapids downstream of Austin. And just upstream of Columbus is a cool old railroad bridge. It's abandoned, but it made of stone, giant arches. I checked on Google, it's not there anymore. But we used this information to make river access maps for kayakers and canoers to encourage public use of the river. I labeled that map I labeled that bridge rather on the map that I made with cool old railroad bridge, thinking there's no way this is gonna make it through editorial, that somebody's gonna change that. Well, nobody objected, so these maps are still available online on the LCRA website, and it still says cool old railroad bridge on it. Another highlight, another map of note is the transmission system map, and I want to talk about that because when it was first requested by Peter Larkham, a transmission executive at the time, we did not have a resource where you could go and see the entire transmission system with all the substations and towns and roads and major water bodies. It was an onus to create the first one. It took a few months, but it became a living document, and the first one we made was about 4 by 3 feet, I think. And because it was a living document, it had to adapt to our transmission system expansion, which I'm sure most of you know has been incredible over the first quarter of this century. We used to occupy a very small space before deregulation, a little bubble, or 2 little circles on either side of Austin where we were allowed to provide transmission. And after deregulation, we blew the doors out of that. We took deregulation not as a threat, but as an opportunity. And it was an incredible experience to watch this expansion. And I always knew we were expanding because somebody'd say, hey, they added a line. And I'd have to look and see where it was and go, oh, man, I got to make the map bigger. Hold on. One of my final official acts as an LCRA employee was to travel down to the Arbuckle Reservoir. I did so with my friend Ben Hayes from Real Estate. He's a long-term board item map client of mine. And I heard he was having a public meeting down there. We were looking at selling our Hollywood Bottom property. And I called Ben, I said, hey, I hear you're going down to Arbuckle. And he goes, yep. And I said, do you need any help? And he said, nope. And I said, well, can I go with you anyway? He said, yep. So Ben and I loaded up for a road trip and hooked down to Arbuckle. And in my defense, I helped with the public meeting. I set up chairs, I greeted people, and I helped run it. And after the meeting, the manager of the facility, it was at the Arbuckle office, the manager of the facility asked if we'd like to have a tour. And we're, sure, yeah, we'd love a tour. So we jumped in his truck. I got to tell you, if you get the chance, if you've not seen it, you got to go down and check out Arbuckle. It is an incredible structure, an amazing testament to human engineering and construction. He took us in his truck and drove us around the berms, and some of the berms are as tall as the building we are in, and parked the truck at the bottom. There was a ramp that was going to take us up over, and before he started going up the ramp, he turned and he goes, all right, get your holy cows ready. Only he didn't say cow. And I didn't think much about it, but we pulled up on top of that berm, and I said, holy shit, holy cow. Wow, because it was difficult to see from one end of this thing to the other. It's almost like, oh yeah, off in the distance, you can see the other berm. He took us on a tour over the inside. There's no water in it yet, so we tooled around the perimeter. That took about an hour. We're going 5 or 10 miles per hour, but that really was an incredible experience. I encourage you all to go see it. Hopefully someday we'll fill it up. A few other people to thank. Caitlin Adams, senior graphic designer, did the layout on this. Thank you, Caitlin. And I am forever indebted to what I call the LCRA GIS Brain Trust. Rick Diaz, Doug Gannon, who's here, and Ted Brown. Those guys ran the back end. They did the programming and the data acquisition that allowed me to do my job. So thank you, guys. And thanks to Mike Dannemiller. Mike was an annoying intern when I first started, fresh out of college. Wouldn't shut up. Still won't shut. But Mike ended up being my supervisor for part of the last of my career, and I just want to thank Mike for some of the happiest years of my career here at LCRA. So with that, after 45 years since my first encounter, if I had one word to describe my career here, it would be fun. I had a great time. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Well, Marcus, I think I'm going to give you a new title, another title. You're the official LCRA comedian. That's some good stuff. Thank you.